A little homage to my dad this week, Sanford and Son, because if any of you know my dad, he's 2 boxes away from being on that show Hoarders. So that and the way my week went in fantasy, it's kind of a junk show anyway. So, but we'll get into it right away here. A couple of key things. There was some movement on the old waiver wire, and a trade actually occurred. People actually had enough stones to make a trade. Let's just start with the waiver wire action. Wade dumped the Steelers defense, picked up the Eagles defense. Tony cut the Lions defense, picked up Mason Crosby. Greg cut Matt Prater, picked up Brandon McManus. I have a feeling you're going to see Matt Prater in Detroit this week after that complete collapse they had. Brad cut Anquan Bolden, added Eddie Royale. Brad and I made a trade. I sent Brad Rowdy White. He sent me Pierre Thomas. I needed some depth at running back, so I had to make a move there with the injury to one of my running backs. Wade dropped Toby Gerhart, picked up Andre Williams. Chris cut Adrian Peterson, picked up Ronnie Hillman. We'll see. The owners in the NFL are meeting this week, so that may come back to bite Chris in the ass, but we'll see. So, on to the scores and things of important nature. If we look at a couple of things, we'll start with me and Chris. This game here, I thought my birthday was on Sunday. Good omen, maybe I'll win a game. But then again, it goes to show I make the worst picks I can make for fantasy. So, tail the tape here. Nick Foles, 15 points for me. A decent week as usual. He scares me in the first half, picks it up in the second half. Steven Jackson, he was a late change for me. I put him in at the end, right at the last minute. He got me 11 big points. Eddie Lacy finally showed up, brought in 20 big points. But then where the wheels came off was my wide receivers scored a grand total of 6 points. Larry Fitzgerald got me 4, which I kind of expected him to do okay because I figured Arizona would be throwing a piss out of the ball. Roddy White only had 26 yards, got me 1 point. Jimmy Graham got hurt. I haven't heard the latest on that. I don't know if I may have to make some more moves there. Novak, my kicker, got me 7. And my Panthers defense, 18 big points. That's the only thing that really kept me in the game. Had it not been for that, it would have been over. We went into Monday night tied at 77, and Chris had Hauschka going, so and Hauschka got him 9 points. Big difference here for Chris. Cutler, 25 points for him. That outscores me by 10. His running backs had a terrible week. Had 6 for Asada, 5 for Doug Martin, 11 total combined. So Steven Jackson kind of canceled him out, and then 20 points for Eddie Lacy for me made a difference. For Chris, where he clobbered me was in the receiving corps. Jeremy Maclin and Julio Jones each dropped 11 points, and Rob Gronkowski dropped 12, which really hurt. Then Hauschka and then the Texans defense got him 7. For me, what killed me, I left Russell Wilson on the bench. He would have got me 20. Deshaun Jackson, if I started him, he gets me 20. I don't start him because I don't think he's going to do squat against Seattle. Was I ever wrong? Antonio Gates, again, 60 yards and 2 DDs. He would have got me 17. If I swap out any one of those two, I win. But instead, I lose and go on another losing streak. So not a beautiful thing for me this week. If we look at some of the other games here, Brad and Fish, the battle of two pals. Brad easily wins here, 82-62. Phillip Rivers and Arian Foster, his MVPs, 22 and 25. Matt Forte with 18. Wes Welker only got him 6. He got a big goose egg out of Calvin Johnson on Sunday, 0 points. Percy Harvin, 2. Matt Bryant, 8. And the Seahawks D only got 1 point, surprisingly there. Points that Brad may have left on the bench was Oliver, running back for San Diego, ran for 182 and 2 TDs. There was 24 points. And then Calvin Wright for Cleveland had 18. Some points he left on the bench there. Also, Pierre Thomas got him 18 as well. I'm hoping I can get some of that on my side of that ledger now that he's on my team. For Fish, 21 points for Matt Ryan. What let him down this week, Frank Gore didn't find the end zone, did get 9 points. Jamal Charles didn't find the end zone, got him 6 points. Vincent Jackson had 10 points but didn't find the end zone. Brandon Marshall, surprisingly, only got him 1 point, was six yards away from getting an extra 3. Antonio Brown, 5 points. He's been big all year for Rish, but didn't have it this week. Bailey, 8, and he's Niners D2. So really what killed Rish was his running backs. He made it up in the receivers because Brad did have a goose. They got a Calvin Johnson. The only person that left, and he had Hakeem Nicks. That's the only one that had, or not Hakeem Nicks, but Monte Sanu for the Bengals would have got him 11, but he didn't start him. So even if he starts him, he still ends up short on the league. Rich basically had to run 75%, run 100% coach's rating versus Brad. Brad still did 77%. Rich is 82, and Brad still wins going away 82-62. So not much of excitement of a game there. Onward to Jonesy and Greg. Greg pulls off a big victory here, 102-94. Peyton Manning for Jonesy puts up 40 massive points, which is crazy. And then Chris Ivory only gets him 1. Giovanni Bernard 5. Marcus Colston gets him 4. The next big person was Golden Tate with 15. And then Jamarius Thomas, 18. Vinatieri got him 8, and the Broncos got him 3. Really nothing else he could have done. He put about the best team on the field he could. The only thing he could have maybe swapped out was James Starks for Chris Ivory, but I will bonus one extra point. Or swapped out the Colts D for the Broncos D. But with the way the Broncos D's been playing, stick with it. Greg made up his point. Demarius Thomas, 31 big points for him. Andy Dalton, 14. Justin Forsett got him 10. Jamarius Hill got him 3. Emmanuel Sanders, 9. Demarius Thomas, 31 again. AJ Green, 11. Brian McManus, the kicker, got him 11. And the Patriots D, 13. And that 13 right there is pretty much what sealed the deal for Greg, winning 102-94. So pretty big week all around for Greg. Good bounce back for him. He's won 2 in a row now, I believe, so he's on fire. Over to Rickman and Tony. This was probably the tightest game of the day. Ended up Rickman pulling ahead 76-73. For Dennis, 25 massive points from Luck, who's been a solid pick. LaShawn McCoy, 7. Trent Richardson, only 1. Steve Smith, after blowing up last week, didn't really do much this week, 2 points. Alshon Jeffrey, a great player, getting 12. Calvin Benjamin, 1. Phil Dawson, the kicker for the Niners, 18 points. And the Bills gets him 10, which helps him hang on. For Tony, Romo, 22 points. Marshawn Lynch, 15 points. Zach Stacy gets him 5. Des Bryant, 13. Victor Cruz didn't do much, only got him 1 point. Williams for the Cowboys gets him 10. Mason Bing Crosby gets him 6. And then the Bengals defense gets him 1 lowly point. The Bengals completely fell on their face on Sunday night. I couldn't believe it. That was a game for them to make a statement, and they didn't make anything of one. So, some points left on the bench. Robinson, the running back for New Orleans, would have got him 13 for Greg. He could have started Shane Graham and would have got him 11. So he could have maybe narrowed the gap, but really not enough to win. So another tough loss for Tony there. And Rickman's back in the hunt, as they say. And for Wade, the Spade Whitaker and Chad, the only PhD in the bunch, for good reason. Wade, Aaron Rodgers, 20 big points. Rashad Jennings, 5. DeMarcus Murray, 15, having another solid year. Murray almost runs for 200. So, Jordy Nelson, 12. Randall Cobb gets him 7. Lawrence Donald, a big goose egg for him. Gostkowski, 19 points. And the Eagles defense, 22. When you get 19 out of your kicker and 22 from your defense, that combines for a whopping 41 points. that's how you survive a goose egg and end up winning. For Kerrs, another tough week. Drew Brees, 24 points. Le'Veon Bell, only 9. Couldn't find the end zone. West, for the running back, gets him 1. Reggie Wayne, 6 points. Keenan Allen, 1 point. Marcellus Bennett, 1 point. Tucker, 8. Browns, 8. Kerrs left a lot on the table with Andre Ellington and 24. He would have had 24 points, which could have definitely made things a little bit interesting. But other than that, or Ben Tate would have got him 10, 1 extra point there. But it would have been tough for Kerrs not to, because Wade had a 99% coaching rating. So Wade was darn near perfect this week, and Kerrs was anything but. So, which has been the tale of Kerrs' season. So let's take a look at the standings after the week. Rickman is 4-1. He's on a 2-game winning streak, looking pretty good. He's going to end up facing. He's going to be at Chris. Greg, 3-2, great comeback. Chris is now 3-2. 3-game winning streak, not bad. Jonesy's lost 2 in a row, went down to 3-2. Tony, 1-4. I know the pain, Tony. I'm there myself. If it had not been for Chad having a terrible week, terrible season, I'd be right there with you in the bottom. So, in the South, Wade, 4-1. He's won 4 straight now. Brad, he's won 2 straight, and he's 3-2. Fish, 3-2. Myself, of course, 1-4. And then Kerrs, 0-5. So, a lot of action to happen this week. Let's check in with our beat reporter, old AJ Walker, see what he has to say about the current things in the NFL. Man, what you talking about? They got problems, man. They talk about practice, not practicing enough. What's going on, man? People getting injured, nobody playing. They're practicing too much, you ask me. Practice is overrated. That's what I'm talking about, practice. Practice is overrated. What you talking about, Roland? Thank you for your opinion, AJ. It's good to get the folks, the ethnic members of the community into the league here, so we have a fair format where we're not ostracizing anybody. So on to this week's matchups. Let's take a look and see where we stand. So for this week, the big matchup for me, of course, is me and Brad face each other. It's a divisional week for us. It's important for me. So we'll see. My lineup is going to be in constant flux now because of the trade, plus injuries and everything else, and bye weeks and what have you. Jimmy Graham, luckily, is on a bye, so they'll buy me a little bit of breathing room. But right now, Nick Foles, I got to keep riding him. I don't have any reason to dump him for Russell Wilson. Steven Jackson is going to play this week. Eddie Lacy is going to play because Bear Thomas is on a bye. Monty Ball is hurt. So Fitzgerald most likely will start for me. Then we'll probably plug in Deshaun Jackson. And most likely Mike Wallace will come back in the lineup because he's coming off a bye. I may consider Gates over Fitzgerald, but it's such an up and down. It drives me crazy with them bums, I swear. For Brad, he's got Phillip Rivers, Forte, Arian Foster. He's going to stick with those 3. He may punch in Stafford, but depends, I think, a lot of it on what happens with Calvin Johnson. Right now they're saying he's out, and if he's out, then you're not going to start Stafford that week. He's going to start Roddy White. He traded for him. You might as well play him, right? Percy Harvin. Big thing with Percy Harvin this week, I don't know if you guys heard, he had 3 touchdowns that came back, which didn't hurt Brad in the end, but he had 3 TDs that came back. They got called back due to penalties. Calvin Wright and Matt Bryant, maybe. He may play around a little bit. He's got some talent sitting on the bench there. He may plug in or not. I don't know. But right now, it'll be a tough week for me to win just because the guy's on bye and what they're saying. But I don't know. If you ask me, I'll probably end up squeaking a winner out. Probably like 72, 70, something like that. So next big matchup, Jonesy versus T.I. Big matchup here. This is the time of year in fantasy where you need to pick it up and get in the lead. It's basically make or break. Either you're going to make it or you're going to lose it, because now's the time where the pavement has to hit the road, and whoever's the best is going to rise to the top, and who's the worst is going to fall to the bottom. So Jonesy, of course, is going to stick with Peyton. No big shock there. His other running back, he may play around there with Roy Halou or James Starks, but he may just stick with Chris Ivy, Giovanni Bernard. He's going to plug somebody else in at receiver for Marcus Colston this week. On his bench, he has Andre Johnson and Jason Witten. Thursday game this week for the Colts, and I believe the Texans are at the Colts, so he'll have to make an early decision come Thursday. Golden Tate had a good week last week. He's going to keep him in there, and Jamarius Thomas, you got to keep playing him. Kicker and defense, crapshoot, do whatever you want there. Vinatieri and the Broncos or the Colts defense, you might swap out the Colts there. For Tony, he's got Romo. He's also got Brady. You never know what Brady's going to do. It's just how he is. Marshawn Lynch, Zach Stacy. He may plug in somebody for Zach Stacy. Maurice Jones-Drew, I don't know if that guy's ever going to come back. Shane Vereen, I think he's cousin with Ben Vereen. I could be wrong. That's really his options there. Receiver, Des Bryant, Victor Cruz, Troy Williams. You're starting Romo, you're going to play your Dallas guys. You're going to take that chance. Julian Edelman may be a start because they're playing Buffalo, but who knows? Crosby's your kicker. You're going to stick with him because your kicker's on bye. And the Bengals defense, keep riding that horse. Everybody says they got probably the best defense or second best defense in the league. So we'll see. Let's see. The next big game, Dennis Rickman. Don't call me Denny Rickman. And Chris Lakes. Rickman's got Luck. He's going to stick with Luck this week probably. LaShawn McCoy, stick there. He may consider swapping out Richardson for either C.J. Spiller or Crowell guy. Ivan Crowell, or whatever his name is. Steve Smith didn't have the kind of week you thought he would after the week he did against Carolina, but who knows? Alshon Jeffrey, I like that guy a lot. I'd stick with him. Calvin Benjamin. You may consider Marcus Floyd here, or Malcolm Floyd. T.Y. Hilton maybe, or DeAndre Hopkins. Either or. Anyone there you may consider swapping out. Phil Dawson is your kicker. You may consider the Sturgis guy in Miami, but just go with it. I just stick with Phil Dawson. Bills defense versus the Cardinals D. I think that's a no-brainer there. You roll with the Bills defense. Jay Cutler for Chris at quarterback. He could sub in Kirk Cousins, but I think he's better off sticking with Cutler here. Running back, you got Asante and Doug Martin. He could come in with Chris Johnson or Ronnie Hillman or Bobby Rainey, either one of those three. But, Rainey is Martin's handcuffs, so you're not going to play him. So plug in Asante. You're going to leave Asante in and probably leave those two. Receiver core, Dwayne Bowe's on bye, so really all Chris has is Pierre Garçon. And I think, let's see, Washington's playing is at Arizona. I think you could probably do that. You could probably plug in Garçon because I think he's going to get some major yards against Arizona, but you never know. But I don't know if you stick Gronkowski against Buffalo, and you're going to keep riding Jeremy Maclin and Julio Jones. You're going to keep riding that wave. Hauschka, who won it for him for Seattle and the Texans defense. I think Texans are playing the Colts, so if you're going to make a move, you got to do it quick, but I think you stick with the Colts there against the Texans. Greg and Chad, probably the hottest owner in the league, Greg, versus the coldest owner in the league, Chad. Greg has a chance to put up some numbers this week with the Bengals going to Carolina. He's got Andy Dalton, Justin Forsett, and Jamal Hill. He could play around there a little bit. He could have Reggie Bush or Stephen Ridley or even Lamar Miller plug in. But, we'll see. Receiving core, Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, and A.J. Green. I think you stick with that. That's a good squad there. Just keep rolling with it. McManus as your kicker. You may consider Dan Carpenter with Buffalo because I think he's going to get a few. I think he's got more field goals versus extra points. So that's something you may want to weigh there. Patriots D. You're going to stick with him because he doesn't have another defense. So as for Kurz will be plugging in Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback because Drew Brees is on the bye. Le'Veon Bell at running back and Tavion West. Couple options there. Andre Ellington, I think you got to start playing him. Kurz, I think you just got to roll with him. I don't know. Ben Tate, I don't know if Tate's going to do it for you. We'll see. Reggie Wayne, Keenan Allen, Marcellus Bennett, I like all those guys. I don't see Sammy Watkins making that big a difference for you, especially against New England. Tucker, I stick with him because he can kick the shit out of the ball. And then you got the Brown Eyes Blue, Cleveland Browns defense. You're going to stick with them because the Chiefs are on a bye. So that one there is, I side heavily. It's hard to pick against Kurz, but I'm going with Greg on this one. I think Greg has better matchups, but we'll see. This will be the week Kurz wins because I bet against him. And then Wade versus Fish. Wade is out on the campaign trail with Gertrude, trying to hustle up some votes and whatever. So he's busy with that, so I don't know how much time he has to pay attention to fantasy, but he seems to be doing all right in the league. He's 4-1, so whatever he's doing, he's living right. So for him, he's got Aaron Rodgers. He's going to keep playing that one all day, every day. Running back, he's got Jennings is on a bye, so he's either going to plug in McFadden or Williams. One of those two he's going to plug in there. He's going to keep rolling with DeMarco Murray, who's been a steal in the draft. Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, you're going to play them. Receivers, you're either going to plug in Patterson here, or you may even consider the waiver wire. Or if you need a receiver, I would consider trading you one for the right formula way. Just saying, make me an offer. All right, Fish. He's got a guy on bye, so he's got and Rich is bye, so it makes sense. Matt Ryan at quarterback. You're going to stick with that. Frank Gore. I stay with Frank Gore. Jamal Charles is out, so he's probably most likely going to plug in Alfred Morris because I don't think Sankey is going to do anything. Ahmad Bradshaw may not be a bad pick either, but we'll see. Vincent Jackson, I like him a lot. Stick with him. Hakeem Nicks, not really. Sanu, maybe. You may plug him in somewhere. Brandon Marshall, I like. And Antoine Brown, I like. Dan Bailey, Irish cream guy. You might want to swap him out with the Nugent, Ted Nugent's boy Mike. Little cat scratch fever for you. And then Niners defense. I like the Niners defense over the Falcons, so that's the way I'd go with it. Pretty solid picks right there, I think. So that pretty much wraps her up, boys. I don't really have much else going on this week. Celebrated my birthday. That was good. But it's now time to get serious in fantasy and get serious about all that. So do yourselves a favor. Help Stant with emails. I did send Stant a nasty gram telling them they're a bunch of cowards for threatening to leave. So I recommend doing the same. So anyhow, good luck to y'all this week and take care.